The Book of Heaven, Volume 2, Part 3. April 12, 1899. Jesus says to her, "Being in the sacrament is for me the same as being in your heart." Hypocrisy, bitter pain for Jesus. Today, without making me wait too long, Jesus came quickly and told me, "You are my tabernacle. Being in the sacrament is for me the same as being in your heart. Or rather, in you, I find something more. I am able to share my pains with you, and to have you together with me, a living victim before divine justice, which I do not find in the sacrament." And while saying these words, he enclosed himself inside of me. While being inside of me, Jesus would make me feel now the prick of the thorns, now the pains of the cross, the labors and the sufferings of his heart. Around his heart I could see a braid of iron spikes, which made Jesus suffer very much. Ah, how much pity I feel in seeing him suffer so much. I would have wanted to suffer everything myself, rather than let my sweet Jesus suffer. And from the heart, I prayed him to give to me the pains, to me the suffering. Jesus told me, "Daughter, the offenses which most pierce my heart are the masses said sacrilegiously, and the hypocrisies." Who can say what I comprehended in these two words? It seemed to me that externally one shows that he loves and praises the Lord, but internally he has poison ready to kill him. Externally, one shows that he wants the glory and the honor of God, while internally he seeks his own honor and esteem. All the works done with hypocrisy, even the holiest ones, are works completely poisoned, which embitter the heart of Jesus. April 16, 1899. Preparation for communion. Offenses given to Jesus by his own. While I was in my usual state, Jesus invited me to go around to see what creatures were doing. I said to him, "My adorable Jesus, this morning I don't feel like going around and seeing the offenses that they give you. Let us stay here, the two of us together." But Jesus insisted that he wanted to go around, and so to make him content, I said to him, "If you want to go out, let us rather go inside some churches, because the offenses they give you are fewer there." And so we went inside a church. But there also he was offended, more than in other places. Not because more sins are committed in the churches than in the world, but because those are offenses given by his dearest ones, by the very ones who should lay down body and soul to defend the honor and the glory of God. This is why they reach his adorable heart more painfully. I could see devout souls who, because of bagatelles of no importance, did not prepare well for communion. Instead of thinking of Jesus, their minds were thinking about their little disturbances, about many trifles, and this was their occupation. Oh, how Jesus pitied them, and how much pity they themselves aroused, as they paid attention to so many straws, to so many specks, but then they didn't so much as glance at Jesus. Jesus said to me, "My daughter, how these souls prevent my grace from pouring into them. I do not look at the trifles, but at the love with which they come to me. Yet they make an exchange. They pay more attention to straws than to love. But while love destroys the straws, with many straws love cannot increase even a tiny bit. On the contrary, it is decreased. But what is worse about these souls is that they get so disturbed and they waste much time. They would like to spend entire hours with their confessors to tell all these trifles, but they never get down to work with a good and courageous resolution in order to root those straws out. What to tell you then, O my daughter, about certain priests of these times? It can be said that they operate almost satanically, reaching the point of making themselves idols of souls. Ah, yes, it is by my sons that my heart is pierced the most, because if others offend me more, they offend the members of my body, but my own offend me in my most sensitive and tender parts, deep into my inmost heart. Who can say the torment of Jesus? In speaking these words, he was crying bitterly. I did as much as I could to compassionate him and repair him. But while I was doing this, Jesus and I, together, withdrew into my bed. April 21st, 1899. Jesus, the poorest of the poor. This morning, while I was in my usual state, in one instant I found myself inside myself, but without being able to move. I realized that someone was entering into my little room. Then he closed the door again, and I felt he was drawing near my bed. In my mind, I thought that someone had entered furtively, without anyone of my family seeing him, and had penetrated even into my little room. Who knows what he will do to me? My fear was so great that I felt my blood freeze in my veins, and I trembled all over. Oh God, what to do? I said to myself, my family did not see him. I feel all numb and cannot defend myself, nor can I ask for help. Jesus, Mary, my mamma, help me. Saint Joseph, defend me from this danger. When I realized that he was coming up on my bed, and he curled up near me, my fear was such that I opened my eyes and I said to him, "Tell me, who are you?" He answered, "I am the poorest of the poor. I don't have a place to stay. I've come to you, if you want to keep me with you in your little room. See, I am so poor that I do not even have clothes, but you will take care of everything." I looked well at him. He was a 5 or 6-year-old boy, without clothes, without shoes, but so very beautiful and cute. Immediately I answered him, "As for me, I would gladly keep you. But what will my dad say? I am not a free person who can do whatever she wants. I have my parents who prevent me. As for clothing you, I can do it with my poor toils. I will make any sacrifice. But as for keeping you, it is impossible. Besides, don't you have a father? Don't you have a mother, that you don't have a place to stay?" But the boy desolately answered, I have no one. Oh, please don't make me wander any more. Let me stay with you." I myself did not know what to do, how to keep him. A thought flashed through my mind. Who knows whether it is Jesus? Or it might be some demon to disturb me. So again I said to him, "But tell me the truth at least, who are you?" And he repeated, "I am the poorest of the poor." I replied, "Have you learned how to make the sign of the cross?" "Yes," he answered. "Well then, make it. I want to see how you make it." So he signed himself with the cross. I added, "And the Hail Mary, do you know how to say it?" "Yes, but if you want me to say it, let us say it together." I began the Hail Mary, and he was saying it together with me, when a most pure light was unleashed from his adorable forehead, and I recognized that the poorest of the poor was Jesus. In one instant, through that light that Jesus sent me, he made me lose consciousness again, and drew me outside of myself. I saw myself all confused before Jesus, especially because of my many rebuffs, and immediately I said to him, "My lovely one, forgive me. Had I recognized you, I would not have forbidden you to enter. And besides, why did you not tell me that it was really you? I have many things to tell you. I would have told them to you. I would not have wasted time in so many useless things and fears. Then in order to keep you, I don't need my family. I can keep you freely, because you do not let yourself be seen by anyone." But while I was saying this, Jesus disappeared. And so it ended, leaving me a pain for not having told him anything of what I wanted to tell him. April 23rd, 1899. The Praises and Scorns of Others. Today I did my meditation on the harm that can come to our souls from the praises that creatures give us. While I was doing the application to myself, to see whether there was in me complacency for human praises, Jesus came close to me and told me, "When a heart is full of the knowledge of self, the praises of men are like those sea waves that rise and overflow, but never go out of their shore. In the same way, the human praises yell and shout, they clamor, they get close even to the heart, but in finding it full and well surrounded by the strong walls of the knowledge of self, unable to find a place for themselves, they draw back, causing no harm to one's soul. So this is what you must pay attention to, and the praises and scorns of creatures, take them into no account." April 26, 1899. The Souls Who Are Detached. Today, while my loving Jesus was making himself seen, it seemed to me that he was sending me many flashes of light, which penetrated through the whole of me, when in one instant I found myself outside of myself together with him, and the confessor also was there. Immediately I prayed my beloved Jesus to give a kiss to the confessor, and to go into his arms for a little while. Jesus was a child. To make me content, immediately he kissed the confessor on his face, but without wanting to detach from me. I remained all afflicted, and I said to him, "My little treasure, My intention was for you to kiss not his face, but his mouth, so that touched by your most pure lips, it might be sanctified and fortified from that weakness. In this way it will be able to announce your holy word more freely and to sanctify others. Oh, please, I pray you to make me content. So Jesus gave him another kiss on his mouth, and then he said, I am so very pleased with the souls who are detached from everything, not only in the affect, but also in the effect, that in so far as they keep stripping themselves, so does my light keep investing them, and they become just like crystals, which are such that the light of the sun finds no impediment to penetrate inside, as it does with buildings and other material things. Ah, he then said, they think that they strip themselves, but instead they come to be clothed not only with spiritual things, but also with the corporal, because my providence has a care all particular and special for these detached souls. My providence overshadows them everywhere. It happens that they have nothing, but they possess everything. After this we withdrew from the confessor, and we found many religious people who seemed all to have their goals set on working for a purpose of interest. Passing through their midst, Jesus said, Woe, woe to one who works for the purpose of gaining money. You have already received your recompense in life. May 2nd, 1899. How the whole of heaven is veiled in the church. This morning, Jesus aroused much compassion. He was so afflicted and in suffering that I would not dare to ask him a single question. We would look at each other in silence. Every now and then, he would give me a kiss, and I to him, and he continued to make himself seen in this way several times. On the last time, he made me see the church, telling me these exact words, The whole of heaven is veiled in my church. Just as in heaven one is the head, which is God, and many are the saints, of different conditions, orders, and merits, so in my church, in which all heaven is veiled, one is the head, which is the Pope, and even in the triple tiara that covers his head is the sacrosanct Trinity veiled. And many are the members that depend upon this head, that is, different dignities, various orders, superior and inferior. From the littlest to the greatest, they all serve to embellish my church. And each one, according to its degree, has the office entrusted to it, and by the exact fulfillment of the virtues, it comes to give of itself a splendor so very fragrant in my church, that the earth and heaven are perfumed and illumined, and the people are so drawn by this light and by this fragrance, that it is almost impossible for them not to surrender to the truth. I leave it to you, then, to consider those infected members, which instead of shedding light, cast darkness. How much torment they cause in my church. While Jesus was saying this, I saw the confessor near him. Jesus looked intently at him with his penetrating gaze. Then turning to me, he told me, I want you to have full trust with the confessor, even in the smallest things, to the point that there must be no difference for you between me and him. And according to your trust and the faith you place in his words, so will I concur." In the act in which Jesus was saying these words, I remembered about certain temptations of the devil, which had produced in me a little bit of distrust. But Jesus, with his vigilant eye, immediately corrected me, and in that very act I felt that distrust being removed from within my interior. May the Lord be always blessed, who takes so much care of this soul, so miserable and sinful. May 6, 1899. Luisa looks for Jesus amidst the angels. This morning, Jesus hardly made himself seen. I felt my mind so confused that I almost could not comprehend the loss of Jesus, when I felt surrounded by many spirits. Maybe they were angels. I cannot tell for sure. While I was in their midst, every now and then I would investigate. Who knows? I might feel at least the breath of my beloved. But as much as I did, I perceived nothing that would reveal the presence of my loving good. Then I felt a sweet breath coming from behind my shoulders, and I immediately cried out, "Jesus, my Lord!" He answered, "Luisa, what do you want?" "Jesus, my beautiful one, come. Do not remain behind my shoulders, for I cannot see you. I have been waiting for you and investigating for the whole morning. Who knows? I might see you amidst these angelic spirits that surrounded my bed. But I could not. Therefore I feel very tired, because without you I cannot find rest. Come, for we will rest together." So Jesus placed himself near me and sustained my head. Those spirits said, "Lord, how quickly she recognized you! Not even at your voice, but at your mere breath, immediately she called you." Jesus answered them, "She knows me, and I know her. She is so very dear to me, like the pupil of my eyes." And while he was saying this, I found myself in the eyes of Jesus. Who can say what I experienced being in those most pure eyes? It is impossible to manifest it with words. The very angels remained stunned. May 7th, 1899. Purity of intention in operating. While I was doing my meditation during the day, Jesus kept making himself seen near me, and he told me, "My person is surrounded by all the works that souls do, as by a garment, and the more purity of intention and intensity of love they have, the more splendor they give me, and I will give them more glory, so much so that on the day of judgment I will show them to the whole world, to let the whole world know how my children have honored me, and how I honor them." Assuming a more afflicted air, he added, "My daughter, what will happen to so many works, even good, done without an upright intention, out of habit and self-interest? What shame will not fall upon them on the day of judgment, in seeing so many works, good in themselves, but made rotten by their intention, such that their very actions, instead of rendering honor to them, as they do to many others, will give them shame. In fact, I do not look at the greatness of the works, but at the intention with which they are done. Here is all my attention." Jesus kept silent for a little while, And I kept thinking about the words he had spoken while I was meditating within my mind, especially on the purity of intention, and on the fact that when one does good to creatures, those same creatures must disappear, making the creature one with the Lord himself, as if creatures did not exist. Then Jesus continued, saying to me, "Yet it is so. See, my heart is so very large, but the door is extremely narrow. No one can fill the void of this heart but souls who are detached, naked, and simple. In fact, as you see, since the door is small, any hindrance, even the slightest, that is, a shadow of attachment, an intention which is not upright, a work done without the purpose of pleasing me, prevents them from entering to delight in my heart. Much love of neighbor enters my heart, but it must be so united to mine as to form one single love, in such a way that one cannot be distinguished from the other. But as for the other love of neighbor which is not transformed into my love, I do not look at it as something that belongs to me." May 9th, 1899. Threat of chastisements. Jesus gives her his bitter breath. This morning I was in a sea of affliction because of the loss of Jesus. After much hardship, Jesus came and drew so close to me that I could not even see him. He arrived at placing his forehead upon mine. His face was leaning just on mine, and so with all the other members. Now, while Jesus was in this position, I said to him, "My adorable Jesus, you do not love me anymore." And he, "If I did not love you, I would not be so close to you." And I continued, "How can you say that you love me if you no longer let me suffer as before? I am afraid I am not wanted in this state any more. At least free me from the bother of the confessor." While I was saying this, it seemed that Jesus would not pay attention to my words, but rather he made me see a multitude of people who were committing every kind of evil. Indignant with them, Jesus would make different kinds of contagious diseases swoop down into their midst, and many would die black like charcoal. It seemed that Jesus would exterminate that multitude of people from the face of the earth. While seeing this, I prayed Jesus to pour his bitternesses into me, so that he might spare the people. But he would not pay attention to me in this either. And replying to the words I had said before, he added, "The greatest chastisement I can give to you, to the priest, and to the people, would be to free you from this state of sufferings. My justice would pour out in all its fury, because it would find no opposition." This is so true that the worse evil for someone is to be given an office and then to be removed from it. It would be better for him had he not been entrusted with that office, since by abusing it and not profiting from it, he has rendered himself unworthy of it. Then Jesus continued to come quite a few times today, but so afflicted as to move to pity and to tears, maybe even the stones. I tried to console him as much as I could. Now I would embrace him. Now I would sustain his head, which was in great pain. Now I would say to him, "Heart of my heart, Jesus, It has never been your usual way to appear so afflicted to me. If other times you made yourself seen afflicted, by pouring it into me, immediately you have changed appearance. But now I am being denied giving you this relief. Who would have thought, after you have consented to pour and to share your sufferings with me for so long, and you yourself did so much to dispose me, that now I would have to remain without it? Suffering for love of you was my only relief. It was suffering that made me endure my exile from heaven. But now, being deprived of it, I feel I have no place on which to lean any more, and life becomes tedious to me. Oh, please, oh, holy spouse, beloved good, my dear life, oh, please, let the pains come back to me. Give me suffering. Do not look at my unworthiness and my grave sins, but at your mercy, which has not exhausted itself. While I was pouring myself out with Jesus about this, he drew closer to me and told me, "My daughter, it is my justice that wants to pour itself out over the creatures. The number of sins in men is almost complete, and justice wants to come out, to make pomp of its fury, and to find reparation for the injustices of men. Here, to show you how embittered I am, and to content you a little bit, I want to pour only my breath into you." And so, drawing his lips close to mine, he sent me his breath, which was so bitter that I felt my mouth, my heart, and my whole person being intoxicated. If his mere breath was so bitter, what must be the rest of Jesus? He left me with such pain that I felt my heart being pierced through. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 2, Part 3. Fiat.